Hey everyone, in today's session, we're going to talk about an operating checklist for you as technical leaders. So imagine the following. Imagine that you're leading an engineering team and you're responsible for the team's outcomes. Now, in this, when you think about the specific things that you're focusing on, as a technical leader, especially folks who have evolved from as technical leads, as well as managers who have evolved from being individual contributors, things that are currently on your plate are things like coding, design architecture, debugging issues, customer issues, code reviews, refactoring, test automation. That's the technical leadership piece of the puzzle. But going back, as you're responsible for the outcomes of the team, there are some other things that need to get on your plate. I divide them into two buckets. Bucket one, general management, or think of this as execution-focused tasks. And the second one are coaching tasks, which is not just it's not just important to get the work done, but also making sure the team and the individuals are growing. So when you think about task execution, this is where activities that come in are sprint planning, Jira completion, release of the deliverables, OKRs, retrospectives, communication, making sure that things are moving, things are happening, any blockers are resolved. And coaching is more in terms of applying your experience to help everyone in the team grow. This is where you're doing career discussions, providing mentoring, feedback, and also making sure that within the team, there is collaboration and trust. So to sum it up, what I've defined is as a leader, you have three key aspects that you need to get done: technical leadership, execution, and coaching. And you need to allocate time in each of these buckets. Typically, it's very easy to pick one bucket, ignore the others. Folks from a technical background will naturally get involved more on the technical leadership aspect, right? And And really, it's very important to make sure you are doing a balancing act here, balancing act in terms of having all these things moving together. Now, the way you can do it, essentially, it might be overwhelming in your current state, but the way to streamline that is to create a well-defined structure or cadence of some key meetings. So what I mean by that is effective meetings typically are the key in accomplishing these goals. And bear in mind, meetings, have a negative connotation. Meetings are seen to be bad. Nobody wants meetings. Productive, working, focused meetings are good. And if used correctly, are extremely effective. So as a leader, corresponding to the three buckets that I mentioned, there are a few meetings, and at least I'm going to propose a few types of meetings. Right? In your technical leadership bucket, you need to have design review meetings. This is where you're having a deeper conversation, not just the code review that happened, but hey, the design of this module, is it good? Helping others to learn as well as they're proposing and working on that module. Second, key one, a recurring one is daily stand-ups, where you're looking for blockers and ensuring that the teams are not blocked on anything technical, they're not clear on how to implement a specific feature, or they're implementing it wrong, which is much more complex. This is where you as a leader jump in. On the execution side, there are a few key meetings: sprint planning and retro, super scrum / customer issue meetings, in which you're involved more as representing your team rather than the team being involved. Those are very important from an execution standpoint. And with respect to people, basically in this bucket, the people coaching part, you have your one-on-ones or weekly check-ins. If you haven't checked out the earlier video on weekly check-ins, that you'd find a good structure to do that. Career conversations, and your own staff meeting, that is getting together everyone who is a part of your team and talking through things which are impacting them, lessons learned, and so on. So when you think about the three buckets, and within those buckets, these meetings I have listed here are more regular cadence meetings. This is not ad hoc, this is not unplanned. Now, in addition to this stuff, you will have unplanned activity. By the definition of driving team outcomes, you do have to allocate some time, some portion of your time for unplanned activities, which it would be naive to assume everything is completely structured. It will never really be that way, as especially as a leader driving outcomes for the around the team. Now, these meetings, specifically when you think about a cadence for this, right? One thing I want to highlight here, and I just want to bring up a template which you might find useful, and the link is attached here, is in each of these buckets, there are specific goals that you're trying to accomplish, right? So in the technical leadership bucket, you're responsible for technical clarity of the tasks, being proactive in uncovering dependencies, representing the team's work, driving customer field issues related with your team, contributing to the strategic direction, right? So these are all, I would say, activities. If you think about in those three buckets, these are the goals you're trying to accomplish. And for each of these goals, the meetings we talked about are the venues to make sure that you're applying or getting these goals accomplished in those meetings, right? So specifically making sure that you are, I would say, ensuring that at the end of the day, these activities get done in those meetings, and in those meetings you're paying close attention on what you're really trying to accomplish, right? Now, related point here is to have a rhythm. So the way to think about your schedule is think of it as daily, weekly, monthly, bi-yearly, right? And those meetings I talked about, you put them in the right bucket, in the right category, right? So for instance, design review meetings, maybe some kind of a weekly cadence works. On a daily cadence, you're looking at more at code reviews and code check-ins, along with basically making sure that you're spending enough time on those aspects, right? Maybe on a monthly basis, you're looking at more forward-looking stuff like exploratory projects, prototyping kind of stuff. Similarly, on the execution side, you have a bunch of meetings, daily, weekly, monthly. On the people coaching side, you have a similar cadence, daily, monthly, daily, weekly, monthly, right? This gives you a structure. This is not necessarily the exact structure you need to follow, but having this clarity, and more importantly, these meetings, making it also pre-scheduled, makes it easy for the team as well, because now they know that there's a rhythm that is associated with these, right? So this structure I'm proposing, there are other examples out there. You can look them up. I have some pointers here, on similar ways. It's the event loop, engineering managers, event loop example, right? People, projects, process, yourself, what you're doing daily, weekly, monthly, what are the key things or the key tasks you're trying to accomplish as a part of this. So in terms of a takeaway, I would basically break it down as, first, you need to be very cognizant in terms of distributing your time. And there are three buckets that you need to focus on. First bucket is the bucket of pre-scheduled meetings, right? Meetings in the category of orchestration, monitoring, coaching, right? So this is the aspects we talked about: the technical meetings, the execution meetings, and the people-related meetings. So that's bucket one of your time. And the more pre-structured and scheduled you are, the more useful that is going to be. So that's bucket one. Bucket two is tasks you are driving. So these are technical tasks, thinking tasks, prep tasks. As a leader, you definitely need to be proactive. So you need time for that. So this is the time where you maybe taking some Jiras on, debugging some code, prepping and thinking about future projects, that's your activity. This is where you become, or you think of yourself as an individual contributor, and allocate time for the tasks you have on your plate. And the third piece here is unplanned time critical tasks. There is no way to predict this bucket. There may be weeks when things are very silent. There may be weeks when this pretty much takes up 80% of your time. So being flexible, being aware that between 2 and 3, right, buckets 2 and 3, there has to be a balance. Bucket one, once you put a structure around it and a cadence, it kind of becomes autopilot, drives itself. You're there in these meetings following a cadence and structure. For 2 and 3, it is more dynamic. You take tasks depending upon how much unplanned activities there are. You cannot be taking on heavyweight Jira tasks when you have a lot of unplanned customer issues, POC issues that you're shielding your team from, right? And also with unplanned activities, once they are done, constantly keep thinking, how can you be proactive? How do you take things which are unplanned? If an issue were to happen, could you have seen that issue and proactively added it in your sprint, in making sure that the team already was resolving it, so on and so forth. So hopefully, folks, going back, this becomes your operating rhythm. Please schedule meetings in the 3 buckets of technical execution people, tasks that you're driving, reflection time, thinking time, preparation time, and the third bucket is unplanned. And even an assignment here, and this is something which is extremely useful for leaders everywhere, which is tracking the tasks on your calendar. So I would recommend basically look at 2 weeks of your calendar, and firstly make sure you're putting everything in the calendar. Every time spent, make a note, add it for yourself, and then analyze and see where you're spending your time, right? Which of those 3 categories that we talked about earlier, was it technical, was it people coaching, was it more execution, and then further break it down in terms of, okay, outside of that, was it more reflection, prep time for yourself, unplanned activities, and so on. And really sort of based on that, come up with, what do you need to start doing, what do you need to stop doing, and what do you need to continue optimize. I can tell you, this is an iterative experience. You'll never find a perfect answer. In fact, you should periodically come back and do such analysis, at least, something that I do on a, quarterly or bi-yearly basis, based on how dynamic the situation is. That's it for this session. Hope you guys found this useful. Thank you.